Welcome to the Holy Rebellion. All right, well, everybody, John Moore, the chillest of guys. Welcome to the Holy Rebellion.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to chat with a fellow chill guy.
With a fellow chiller, yeah. We appreciate. I know you're a busy guy. You got kids and a job, and so I know like this much about you. I know that you're a muralist. I know that you're co-founder of the Heare Brotherhood. Your father, husband. You have a lot going on in your life. Will you just give us like a quick sampling of who you are?
Yeah. I always struggle with this question just because there's so much, and I'm not very good at elevator pitches because I think that they are so limiting.
Give us the stair pitch, like the 10-floor flight of stairs.
That's okay. Elevator pitch, if it's 100 floors, I'm on it. That's
Empire
my kind
State
of
Building,
elevator.
you're set.
That's right. That's my kind. So you did a great job. But I like to describe myself as just I usually say I'm an entrepreneur because that covers a lot of things. It's kind of an easy blanket statement that I have lots of things going. One of them, yes, is I paint murals. Another is I'm a designer and creative director. And so I work on brands and their image, their identity, and that whole thing. And then I have a focus on men's mental wellness and mental health, and with the Heare Brotherhood and the Heare Foundation. And I really, really love that as well. That's been a bit of a mission going on almost 2 years since it was
for whatever
started.
reason, I thought you guys were around forever.
Yeah?
I didn't realize you were it blew up so quickly. It just felt like
it did.
You were around forever.
Yeah, no, that's how it's felt for us too. But no, it's been pretty just so we're coming up in a week and a half on our 2-year anniversary of Justin Bray and I meeting for the first time. And it was official May 1st of 2023 is when we launched it officially.
So do you take Justin Bray out to a nice romantic dinner to celebrate the anniversary?
Yeah, we did. We did last year for our first year anniversary.
You've got to do it.
I'm sure we'll do it again on the 18th. I think it's January 18th. So
yeah.
So that's a brief, I guess, intro, and then I guess you gave a good intro for my family. I've got my wife Kelly, who is a Heber City resident, was basically raised here. And then we came here and we've been here for about 6 years. Let's see, almost 7 years. And then I've got 5 kids, a daughter, and then 4 boys. And it's a madhouse at all times. And I love it.
What are the age ranges?
So oldest just turned 10.
Okay.
Which blows my mind.
Yeah, you've got a 10-year-old, man.
It's so weird to me. I really can't handle it. And then about 2-year gaps until the 1.5-year-old. So from 10 to 1.5. And then this Saturday, I'm baptizing my second, who is 8 years old, just recently turned 8. And so that's kind of it's a very exciting thing. So we've been preparing for that.
That's incredible. So my oldest daughter is 6.5, so she'll be 7. And we've hyped up baptism so much. And I'm really excited about baptism. Because it's the beginning to a pattern of being after the order of God, and I just don't know, like there's no better way to live, and to me it's so exciting to have my children enter into that pathway to a joyous life, and you're doing it with your kids. I love it.
Well, I love that thought because it's such a routine thing. I mean, you only have so many kids to baptize, right? But it's so ingrained into our culture that it's just kind of a next step, or one of the big first steps, I guess, the gateway, right? Baptism. But I've been thinking about it more as it's come up because for a while it's felt so distant. So all of a sudden it's here. So I'm thinking like, wow, when I was a full-time missionary in Argentina, whenever you had a baptism, it was like it was like the Super Bowl, right? Like it
Yeah.
was the biggest day ever
Yeah.
to have a baptism. And so as it's kind of come upon us, I'm like, wow, it's here. Like and this is even more important than that because it's my own kid, you know? And so it just is really exciting. And it's kind of dawned on me just the last couple of days, like, wow, it's here. Um, my oldest son is being baptized and I get to do it. And it's such an
Yeah.
honor to be there for him, to do that with him. And my dad did it with me. My dad baptized me. And so it's just a fun generational
Generational. I hadn't
thing.
thought about it that way, but yeah, as a missionary, it's so exciting. And it's like you're there for the beginning. The
Yeah.
gateway drug to Jesus baptism. Like with your kids,
Yes.
you're there for the entire journey. Hopefully stick
Yeah.
around for a long time, but
Yes.
that's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. We're very, very excited. And we have some family coming into town. My parents are coming in from Kansas City. So that's exciting. Both grandparents will be there. And anyway, just very grateful.
I've got to, you mentioned your house is a little chaotic. Mine is too. And I just I've got to tell somebody this because I got to get it
Bring
off
it.
my
Yes.
chest.
I
So
love it.
when I was a young boy, too, I would get angry and I would hold my breath and pass out
Stop it.
as like a little toddler. So I'd be my mom would be taking me grocery shopping, and I'd be throwing the kid fit. I want the marshmallow mateys, and I can't have it. I would legit pass out in the middle of the aisle, just like a dead body. And my mom would just like drag me. She'd hold my hand and drag me down the aisle. This was a regular occurrence. And growing up, I always thought that was so funny until
Is that like a
yesterday.
condition? Is that a condition or
It's a
like
disease.
you just were that smart?
Dude, I don't know. She tells a story about one time she took me to a restaurant. Bad idea, by the way. She took me to a restaurant with her friends. So she was going out with her friends, had to take me. And she's like, I got to go run to the car real quick, keep an eye on my kid. She left. I lost it. And I passed out in the restaurant with all of these women watching me who had no idea this was a thing. They thought I was dead. And so she comes in and they're like screaming. They called the cops. And it was a nightmare. So anyways, growing up, this is funny. Last night, not so funny. I tried to stick my 1.5-year-old in his seat for dinner and he lost his mind, because he doesn't want to be there and he gets what he wants. And so I'm like pushing his hips into the seat. And then he does that cry thing where it's like they take a deep breath and then they like cry really hard and then they wait to breathe back in, but he didn't breathe back in.
No.
And he just passed out. Like in the moment, I can laugh about it now. It was really scary. Like holding his limp body. And then he just comes back to life.
But you deserved that. You full on deserved this.
I immediately texted my mom. I was like, guess what? He held his breath until he passed out. And she just she laughed me to scorn. And that's exactly what I said. I deserve this. I had this coming.
Sometimes I say that with my kids, like if they're being super like pestering either of their sibling or me, I lose it, but then I'm like, but I also deserve this. I'm the youngest of 10, and so I'm like, I'm convinced that whatever you do growing up is what you will get in return.
Feedback. It's just I wish.
Yep.
And man, I really hammed it up when I was a kid, and so I'm getting all the payback these days.
Yeah. Same.
Good.
Especially with the 4 boys. Woo!
Yeah, I bet. I grew up
those 2 olders.
So
I love them
6
so much.
brothers. We were 5.
Wow.
We were. So I have 5 brothers. We're 6 boys, and like the hell we gave my mom is just out of this world. And so I know it's coming.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a fun life.
And it's fun. Yeah. Anyways, so the Holy Rebellion, the whole idea is to rebel against the gods of the world. And what we want to do is just provide stories of faith for people to show them that there's a better way. And that better way is Jesus Christ. And he is the God that we should worship. And President Nelson put this really well recently. He said, in my perspective, what you worship is to whom or what you will give your life. And I love that phrasing. And so, John, to who or what will you give your life?
Oh. Well, right now, the social media gods are the ones that I'm trying to stop worshiping. because we call it the algorithm, call it the whatever it is.
It's gotcha.
It's got me, and I'm like that. It's one of the things that I really want to work on for this year. I'm not like I'm a big dreamer and a goal person, but I'm also an anti-goal person and just like trying to do the whole becoming thing. Because fad diets and fad whatever, apply that to whatever industry or whatever goal, they don't really work for me. They'll work maybe for a little bit, but any type of goals, it's like until I figured out the action of becoming rather than like just setting goals has been pretty life-changing for me, because I go into it knowing like I'm going to become something rather than just check off a box or check off a goal or whatever. And so rather than, for example, like running a marathon, it's becoming a runner.
Yeah.
And this is totally not what you asked.
I'm liking the direction. Keep going.
This is not what you asked, but it hopefully will come back to the idea that of becoming a disciple of Jesus Christ, and that is the pursuit right now. And I am one, but my goal is to become a more devoted disciple of Jesus Christ, because he is the God that I want to serve. So hopefully that answered that.
So the golden calf of Instagram, just the sweet siren call.
And Twitter / X lately,
Dude.
with the whole political conversation going on. I have a hard time not being there. Yeah, but anyway, I digress.
Well, you know what? Having these conversations with people. One of my questions later was like, what other gods demand your attention? What gets in the way? And that is the most common answer I get. That is something everybody struggles with.
Yeah. Yep.
So a couple of years, like a year and a half ago, I made the goal to I'm not going to do any scrolling. So I can hop on, I can look at my notifications. So if somebody sends me a message, I'm not out of the loop, but I didn't scroll. And so I'm like a year and a half sober.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I've hopped on for the podcast stuff. I'm trying to interact with different people, which is, it's like, I feel like an idiot when I hop on Instagram. I've got to post something. Like, well, I have to go ask my wife, how do I share this? Which buttons do I push?
Yeah.
And I feel like I've missed out on some things, but I think I've gained so much more in just, it doesn't control me anymore. I don't feel pulled. But there was a time, it was Reddit. Reddit got me so good.
Ooh,
have you ever
Reddit
been to
that?
Have you ever been to there's like this Roast Me channel? Have you heard of that? Don't go down this rabbit hole. But it's like people post a picture of themselves and they just say roast me internet, and they do.
Wow.
So brave, but the internet is so funny and vicious.
It's the worst and the best.
It's the worst and the best of the internet, and I just fell so hard down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I had to quit. Get sober.
There's a LinkedIn one where people roast. It's called LinkedIn Lunatics, and they basically take posts, and it's actually pretty horrible. Like,
is it?
But it's kind of like a goal to get on there, like, because I have done something so ridiculous against them that they think I'm a lunatic. But
so
anyway, you haven't made it.
Low key,
but lots of friends who have. That's when you know you've made it, because you're doing something right, and so they want to attack you. But anyway. But yes, social media is definitely one of those gods. And I even hate to admit it, but it has become one that has taken away. And, it's not totally a bad god.
Yeah, there's good
stuff.
How
do I say that? Like, there's lots of good things happening too. So it's also, it's one of those weird mixture things that I don't know if it's existed before, where you're like, I get a lot of good things from it and a lot of bad things.
Well, it's like donuts.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
A box of a dozen donuts, it's like, one or two. But the entire box, it's like, probably not. I don't need all that.
Maybe you're right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I actually, that's something that I would love to figure out is, how do I do this without just scrolling? Because it's just become such a habit, right? Such a habit for me. Because I've told myself the story that it's essential, right? It's essential for being a human today, for having a business, for having all kinds of things. And so, but sometimes I wish I could just get rid of it all and go live in a cabin and just take my scriptures and books and
Grow a mean old beard.
except my wife wouldn't want me to, but yes.
Yeah. The point, like I got to this point where this was several years ago, I was painting my garage, which was a way bigger undertaking than I thought it would be.
Right.
And it took me hours and hours and hours. But I was like, I had my headphones in. I was listening to some Jordan Peterson podcasts. I was set. And then my headphones died.
No.
And then it was just a man in his thoughts for like 3 hours. And all I could think about was the stupid YouTube reels I'd been watching. Like that was it, just constant. And it was at that moment I realized that it was not only taking my free time, it was robbing me of my free thought. It's like, I got to change this because I cannot think. It literally robbed me of that.
Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah, that's a powerful realization to have of not being able to be alone in your own thoughts. And I think most people deal with that at some point of having that realization that I can't be alone with my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the main key indicators for success is being able to sit with your own thoughts and sit with the silence of your own thoughts, nothing else, and just feel peace, which is a flex today, I would say, for anybody to be able to do that.
Can you flex on that one?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always, but sometimes. Yes. So it depends on the season. Currently, I don't know if I can flex that.
Yeah.
but there have been seasons where I feel like I can flex that.
Move in the right direction. We're becoming somebody.
Yes.
It's gonna take some
time. And I'm working on getting back to that.
Okay. I have a hard time with this. I have a hard time with gray area. It's like I do something or I don't do something. Yeah, for social media, for example, I can't, my solution is just don't scroll. I can't like be, okay, you can only scroll 5 minutes a day because I won't keep that. But so I have to have like these really rigid lines in my discipline or I can't follow. It's like I have to get up this time every single morning and have this exact routine, or if I miss a day or two, it just all falls to pieces. So I just like have to be so rigid. And I know a lot of people aren't like that. So I don't know how else to do it. Like how, if there is somebody struggling with addiction to social media or just being on it too much, like how do you go about beating that?
Yeah. Gee. When somebody figures it out, let me know. But it sounds like you have.
$1 million idea. Yeah, get off of it. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, one thing that I've tried to do, there's an app called Opal, if you've heard of it. That's one thing where it you set certain limits, and so you say I can.
Yeah.
So I set my limits, and I say I can be on this one for 15 minutes 3 times a day, or whatever. And so, but the problem is it's really easy to shut it off. And so I'll go through these
really
seasons of
ignoring.
Like, I'm like, oh, I wasn't done.
Yeah.
And so I'll like ignore it, or I'll like go and turn off the app or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, somebody needs to hardwire this so that I can not be such an addict. But no, I'm probably over dramatizing, but
yeah,
that's one of the ways that I've tried to fix the bad habit. But yeah, if you have solutions, let me know because I'm trying to figure it out.
My solutions are all extreme. Like I just have no, I have no chill, John. I just like, I can't do it or I don't stick to it.
Well, I think that's powerful because if there's anything I've learned over the last couple of years, it's that for some people, David Goggins works, if you know who I'm talking about. And for others like me, like absolutely not. Like that is not the way for me.
I'm not running into snow. No way.
No.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, just like, and staring in the mirror and telling yourself you're a piece of crap. And like,
yeah.
That doesn't work for me. And I think most people, it doesn't work, in my opinion.
We need a little more love than that sometimes.
I agree. I think that I don't see Jesus staring in the mirror and being unkind to himself or to others unless they're a Pharisee and they're being not a great person. So Um, anyway, I don't remember where I was going with that.
Well, follow-up question for you. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
you were striving to be a disciple of Jesus Christ and to worship him. What were the pivotal moments that led you to want to do that, to want to worship Jesus?
yeah. I mean, really, the scriptures. I'm kind of, I'm trying not to be like this, and I'm trying to be more like this. Um, I don't know if it's a personality thing, if it's a ADD person thing, but I'm trying to be more like this, and so, there's seasons where I'm kind of feeling like I'm not amounting to much, and other seasons where I'm like, I am a son of God. I feel it.
Feeling
I
it.
feel it, and I know it. On Sunday, just the last couple of weeks, this kind of renewal phase that we collectively go through with the new year.
Yeah.
It's a good wake up call for me. And starting with, we have a new curriculum that we're starting at church, where we're studying the Doctrine and Covenants, and we're studying some church history stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that I haven't visited for a while that has brought me a lot of peace, to remember, and just remembering the stories through God's word. I guess to put it plainly, is to God's word. And I was a little bit behind last year reading the Book of Mormon. And so I was trying to really finish it the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks. And doing that was really helpful for me to just dive in more so than I normally would, because I wanted to get ahead. And so, I mean, that's true when you're studying the Bible, any type of scripture. It's just diving in for me is what helps me the most. And it's so funny when I do it. And afterwards, I'm like, why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
I just feel so much peace and so much resolve to be better and to be my best self and to be a disciple of Christ and to serve my neighbors and to serve my family. And yet I allow all these other gods to get in the way. And actually, I was pondering it the other day on a drive, and I just thought, it's not that I don't, in these dips, in these seasons where I'm not as devoted of a disciple, it's not that I don't love it. It's not that I don't love it or don't want to serve it. It's just that I'm giving my time to other gods more so than this. And so, so for me, the devil has tried to convince me that if I'm loving this more, that means I don't love the other. And it's like, no, I actually really love this, and I know it gives me peace. I know it does. And yet all these other distractions and these flashier things sometimes take more of my time and attention, which, speaking to the title, I need more rebellion there.
We need some rebellion these days.
I like to look at myself as a rebellion type of a person. Like I feel like if I were in the days of Jesus, like I would embrace him. Like I love the type of rebel that Jesus was against the times.
Yeah.
And so I want to be that same type of a rebel against today, but it's so much harder than it sounds, right? To rebel against everything that's constantly being thrown at us.
Yeah, and it's never ending. It just never stops.
Never stops. And and it will continue that way exponentially, I believe.
Yeah, here's like a physical testimony to that. So I started taking cold shower. I was thinking about this morning. So I started taking cold showers about 4 years ago. So I've been doing that for 4 years, and like I hated it. I hated it so much. But I read a book. It's called What Doesn't Kill You, and it's basically is somebody akin to what's that guy's name? Wim
Hof.
Yeah.
Wim Hof, yep.
I think he like studied with him. He wrote a book, and I was like, oh shoot,
cool.
I want to be cool. So I started taking cold showers, and after doing it it took a long time, like 6 months. I was like, I kind of like this. And 4 years in, sometimes it's still hard to get in. Man, I love getting out. It just feels so good. And you've done cold plunges. It's just like that. Not nearly as cold, but it's just like that. And I think scriptures and temple and church, it's all the same thing. Sometimes it's hard to go, but man, being in there and getting out, is just such a relief and a rush, and you feel so good about yourself for accomplishing something.
Yes. I feel that same way. And it's funny, I've been thinking about cold showers because I try and take them every day as well. I have a routine where I'll go to the gym and then I'll sit in the sauna for a few minutes and then go straight into the cold shower
Nice.
and just put it under the muscles that I was working for that day. And it's like almost like a bunch of different cold plunges because it's like your body gets used to it on your shoulders and then you do
And
the
then
other
you move
like,
it, and then it's cold again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas a cold plunge, it's like one horrible plunge,
You're in.
you know? Yeah. So like, sometimes I feel like cold showers are even worse, or they can be. No, but no, I think you're spot on. I think anything that's good for us, for some reason, it's supposed to be difficult, or it's supposed to push us, because the world has so many solutions that seem like they fix our problems, that that will do the job for us, but they're really just counterfeit for what is the truth, which is anything that God offers as healing and as solutions, and anything replacing Jesus Christ and how he can heal is anything that replaces that or is counterfeit to that is just not lasting. And so it's just fascinating. It's fascinating that it is that way. And sometimes that drives me crazy that that's the way that it has to work. But that's the way that it has to work. That's the only way that muscles grow. That's the only way that we grow, is through that difficult process of doing hard things or just doing things. In this day, it's not necessarily about, it's just doing things, because so often we're not doing things. We're not doing the things that we know are helpful to us, like eating healthy, like exercising our bodies, like listening and watching things that are uplifting. Anyway, I could go on a whole rant there,
No,
but I won't.
I love that. And as you were describing moving the cold shower from one spot to another, every single morning, it's like the worst part is I get in, I turn on the water, it hits my chest, like, okay, now to the back. And you gotta
Oh,
spin
the back.
around.
Why is the back so
It's
bad?
the worst, man. It's like a full body experience when you do that.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
freezing.
It's so true.
Do you mind sharing with us that a time when perhaps your faith was challenged?
Ooh. Yeah, actually. The last couple of years have been quite the roller coaster, to say the least. I jumped ship from a full-time job to entrepreneurship with the endorsement of God.
He gave you the
Meaning
thumbs up?
he gave me the thumbs up. I was studying my scriptures once, and I remember a distinct morning where I just felt like, because I had been looking at that option of moving forward into jumping out on my own because I was feeling ready. So I remember studying the scriptures, and I remember almost hearing this thought of, if you keep your eye on me, I will sustain you. I will support you. Just keep your eye on me. And so I will provide for you, he said. If you keep your eye on me, I will provide for you.
What?
And so,
quick question there. Was that like, were you reading that? Was that a thought that came to your mind? Did you hear it?
yeah, no, so I don't know. I think I just kind of heard it in my mind. But, Peter, we'd been watching The Chosen at that point, and this was about 3 years ago. And so I was thinking a lot about Peter and his discipleship and his journey. And so I think that was the visual in my head of like him walking on water and the Lord just speaking peace to my mind, like, keep your eye on me and I'll provide for you.
Yeah.
And that has been true. Every single ounce of it has been true over the last couple of years. And that has not looked like how I've wanted it to look, nor my wife. I will be honest with you that sometimes that has looked like somebody showing up, not knowing our situation at all when it was low, and showing up with an envelope and saying, I don't know, God told me I needed to give this to you, and so I wouldn't argue with it.
What a miracle.
So, yeah. And it was exactly what we needed. And so that for me was one of those moments where I just knew, like, God was providing. And I know that this isn't the answer to your question. Um,
We're doing a lot of that.
yeah,
These are the
I
best
would be
tangents, though.
I'd be a great politician, right?
I forgot what I even asked. Yeah,
Me
I'm on
too.
board.
No, but like, it does lead to this idea of like, this was about a year ago, where we had somebody who we have a podcast episode about this on our Heare Brotherhood podcast. It's called Barren of Lies or Truth.
Okay.
And that doesn't make any sense, but we were duped by a guy who was planning to give us a bunch of money to provide resources for us. And this was somebody who we had FaceTimed and spent a lot of time with and felt like we could really trust. And long story short, at the end of the day, they ended up not delivering and just vanishing. And that was that was talking about roller coasters. That was really hard on my family because of what could have been.
Yeah.
Of what we were planning on financially, planning on for the Heare Brotherhood and the Heare Foundation. And so with somebody that was very charming, right? Like we trusted them, and all of us, and we all try and be really in tune with the Spirit. So that was a trial for all of us because we were like, okay, we're being cautiously optimistic, but we're just going to keep moving forward in faith. And we did. And what ended up happening is nothing. And that has been a little bit of this whole journey as far as financial goes, the finances go. So it's been really hard on that front where there have been moments of like, God, like we're trying to do what you're asking us to do. And a lot of times that has been there's been moments where we turned something down because we didn't feel like it was the right thing. And it could have been very financially good for us. And yet we felt like it would have taken away the integrity of what we were trying to do and that it just wasn't the right decision. And so we're like, we've made all these sacrifices, we've done all these things, and we've been led on this journey. And then this, like, we were supposed to have millions of dollars. We were supposed to have all these things and nothing. Like, it almost feels like, God, where are you, you know?
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, kind of at the tail end of this story is I had this moment where I was feeling very frustrated. And I've heard of people that have approached God and just like yelled at him and sworn at him and just like gone to him just like so angry. And I thought, I'm going to try that.
So you did.
So right as I started trying that, I like laughed myself out of it. And this isn't to like diminish anybody who has had that experience. Like, I think it's a very necessary thing for a lot of people. But I went and I'm just like Heavenly Father, I'm sorry. I tried and I just couldn't. I can't. Like, I just know too much. Like, I just know too much of what you've done for me.
Yeah.
And I don't have any, like, I have doubts about the ways. I have doubts about the manner in which things happen, but I trust him. He's always delivered. He's kept his promise to me. I haven't always kept my promise to keep my eye on him. But if there's anything that I'm good at, it's failing and continuing to and trying again. Like,
Tenacious.
he knows I'm never going to give up on him. He knows I have seasons where I am distant, or where I'm not seeking him as much as maybe he would like for me to be seeking him. But I also know that he doesn't shame me for that. And he's just so grateful whenever I try. And he knows that I'm going to keep on trying because I know too much, because I've seen too much to ever deny his existence and his power in my life and in the lives of others. It would be foolish of me to ever deny his existence, his abundance, and his takes care of family and so many no. So there's kind of your roller coaster answer of like, had so many moments where I'm just like, had those angry moments and those frustrated moments where I'm just like, God, like, I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing your hand in this. I'm very confused, but I
Yeah.
also know that you're there. And so, it's such an interesting relationship. It's such an interesting relationship to have this faith, what feels like a faith crisis, which is, it's even hard to describe it as that because for me, I've always shown faith. Like I've always showed up to church. Like I've never stopped. I've never stopped praying, or there's moments where I've skipped a prayer, or,
Yeah. You rebel.
but right. But I've never, like, I've always, whether I have good intentions or not, gone through moments where I've had to go through the motions. But for me, that's still faith, right? Even if my
Yeah.
intentions maybe aren't the best, I'm still showing faith by showing up. And so, I don't know if I've had a faith crisis as much as an internal belief crisis, or a almost a Joseph Smith moment of saying, like, where is the pavilion?
Yeah.
When is my ship going to come in? When are we arriving at the promised land? I'm tired of being in the wilderness. I'm tired
Eating
of,
raw meat.
yeah, I'm tired of pushing these hand carts. That sounds really dramatic, but sometimes it really has felt that way, right? Where you're like, when is the promised land going to show up?
Yeah.
When I feel like I've built my boat, we've gone across the ocean, we've made our treks, we've made our pilgrimages, and I'm just like, I'm ready for the ship to come in, you know?
I love
So,
that imagery. That's exactly what I was thinking about as you were going through the story. It's like God, when he talks to a people, he's always leading them to a promised land. And,
yes,
and we just see that story over and over and over again, but it's like it's across the ocean and they're under the waves and they're there for a year. Like that would be miserable. Or they're crossing a desert
right,
for 40 years or they're starving in the wilderness. It's like it's always
right,
kind of tough. But the beautiful thing is it's always towards a promised land. And at some point, it's like they get there. They always get
yep,
there.
yes. And in many ways, I feel like we have arrived at a promised land, or at least
It's pieces of it. Yeah.
a checkpoint, right? Where he transports us to the promised land for a minute, but it's fascinating to bring up the Israelites for 40 years, just whether it's the 40 years as a literal thing or 40 years in God's time of, like, they were there for a long
It
time,
felt like forever for him. He was sick
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of, it's funny that I'm like, I've been doing this for 3 years, but
Yeah.
it has many times felt like that. Just like I use that a lot as far as daily manna, because what my wife and I would really love is to have, to be ahead and to have, but so many times it's felt like daily manna. Like the example that I shared with you of somebody showing up, or just finishing a project, a mural, and all of a sudden all these people show up that need something, and you're just like, I wish I could just plan the whole year out and have it all set up so that we
Yeah.
could just have this more of a
Or stable.
steadiness, a
Yeah.
stable, yeah, but that hasn't been our lot right now. Many times it's just been daily manna, which is really amazing, and it's amazing to see God's hand in that. And it gets old. It gets old to be relying on daily manna when you're like, I know there's a field of animals out there where I can have steak and I can have
Yeah.
chicken, and I like, but manna is what we're getting for now,
That'll do for
you know?
now. But
Yes. And so, and that can sound ungrateful, but I think he understands my intentions of that, of,
yeah.
I don't want that to be a temporary or a permanent thing. I'm ready for that to be over.
There was a time. So my parents they got divorced when I was young, and so we'd do summers with my dad. And so my dad cooked a big bulk sloppy Joe meal, and then just decided that's what we would eat for the entire week. And so we did. I legit to this day I can't even touch it. I cannot touch a sloppy Joe. They're so far done with that.
That's so funny. I love sloppy joes,
Ugh.
so I'm so sorry for your loss there.
Not like I'm not sad about it. I cannot do it.
Yeah,
I being an entrepreneur, there's it it is a spiritual battle. Because
it is.
think 8 years ago, I decided that it might have been 8 years ago, something like that. But I decided that I was going to be an entrepreneur because I just had like so much ambition and drive, and I felt like that's the only way I could do it. And I felt like I had God's go ahead to do it. And then I spent the next 5 years in poverty trying to be an entrepreneur and making it work. And I was like, God, well, come on. Like, I'm trying. Where are you at? But one thing I realized is that I really have a testimony of that scripture where Nephi says, God will never give a commandment to us without also providing the way to, I always think of it in
Yes.
Spanish. I don't even know how to finish in English, para cumplirlo, to
Yeah,
complete
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I think that as a provider, it is literally a commandment to provide for your family, which to me, I correlate the two. And it's so comforting to me because I know that God has commanded me to provide for my family, and he will always provide a way for me to do it. And we were in poverty, and sometimes we had like food stamps, and I always paid my mortgage. We always had food. Like we had a wonderful life actually, and it was beautiful. And at some point it tips a little bit and you do a little bit better, and you're never quite where you think you'll be. But sometimes I think our plans fall out of place so that God's plans can fall into place. It's often, or maybe always, better that way.
It's so true. Because imagine all of the growth that happens in those in those moments where we just have to rely on him. We don't have any other choice.
Yeah.
We're almost compelled to be humble. And we've had our moments where we've chosen to be humble, and other moments where we've chosen or been compelled to, right? Which both have merit. One is it's good, better, best. but I'm equally grateful for the opportunity to be compelled sometimes, because you're absolutely right that it's always better the way that God wants us to do it. And even if that doesn't look like the comfortable way that we want it to be or think that it should be.
I think that experience of somebody showing up with an envelope of money, I just like, thank God. And what a trust building exercise. You were literally falling and he caught you. That is amazing.
Yeah. And that's happened a handful of times. I will admit that that has happened. It's sometimes it didn't even need to, but sometimes it's just people that are just in tune. And I'll forever be grateful to those people that were in tune to the Spirit, and because they were following God. And God's like, I told you. I don't think he says I told you so, but whatever the holy way that he says, I got you. Like, remember, just keep your eye. I just told you one thing. Keep your eye on me.
Yeah.
And I won't let you fall in the water. Just
that's
keep
beautiful.
your eye on me.
So on the flip side of things, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, how do you know that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the Church of Jesus Christ? Like, how do you know that we have prophets? How did you come to know that?
Yeah. This is an interesting question, because I've been thinking about my 8-year-old son. And I've been thinking about the view of the world that I know a lot of people feel like 8 years old is too young to decide to be baptized. And I've been thinking about this because I think in content a lot of times, because that's a lot of my world is content creation.
Yeah.
And so I think of like the reaction of certain people. And I think about that and what they would say of like an 8-year-old being baptized. And so I think about that in my own life, how by the time I was 8 years old and decided to get baptized, I already knew. I've always known.
Wow.
Not because that's not even to like sound like a flex. It's just, it's the way that I was raised. There's no question in my mind. And it's not like a brainwash thing. It's not I've had my moments where I've doubted, because I was raised that way. And so I didn't know any other way. And so I ventured into other things in my mind. And I always come back to the fact that even a lot of my Christian friends who are amazing, who've taught me so much about Jesus Christ and about how to be a disciple of Christ, at the end of the day, a lot of it feels incomplete. When I look at Christianity as a whole, there's certain things that feel incomplete, and it's because of the Book of Mormon. It's because of certain additional witnesses that I've already known. And so for a season, I tried to get rid of those, or I tried to push those aside so that I could just focus on Christianity. And Christianity is amazing, and it's an amazing foundation. But I already grew up knowing the full story and the full account of Jesus Christ, not just on the other side of the world, but in the Americas too. And so as I've journeyed, growing up, wandering away for a little bit, and then coming back and saying, I've always known that this is true. It's been so fun to reflect on that and say, I am so grateful to have grown up in a home where I feel like we have it, the restoration is still unfolding, the restoration of God's New Testament church. And yet I feel like I have the full picture because of the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants and the Pearl of Great Price and the words of modern day prophets. So I remember, on another note, answering your question about prophets, I remember when President Nelson, I remember being distraught when President Hinckley died.
Yeah.
Because he was the prophet of my childhood, and of course President Monson as well. But I was of the age when President Nelson became the prophet that I felt like I had a good understanding and grasp on the gospel, and I really wanted to know. I didn't go through this process quite with President Monson just because I think I was in high school, and I wasn't all
You're
there,
chasing
I guess.
girls.
I
You got
was
other things
right. I
going
was
on.
just like, I was focused on my mission and girls and,
Yeah.
But this time I really took a good, I went through a good process because I wanted to know. Because to be honest, it's not like I struggled with President Nelson before, but he just didn't ever really resonate with me, as a speaker, right? But when I had this site called Able, it's called Able Day. It doesn't really exist anymore, but an acronym for A Better Life Every Day, Able Day. And I compiled a list of all his talks, and I published it, and it went viral for a little bit when he became the prophet. And it was all of his talks, and I started to go through them. And as I read them, I'm just like, I just had this unbelievable witness of he is the prophet of God. And ever since, every time he talks, every time I see anything from him, I just think, what a prophet. Like President Holland said that one time, he's like, and what a prophet. And
Yeah.
I feel that way all the time with President Nelson, and I feel the chills. I get the chills saying that now of just, I have no doubt in my mind that he was prepared for this exact moment of history and this day, which I believe are the latter days, the last days, and that he was meant to and foreordained to be here at this time. So all that to just say that I am so grateful for Joseph Smith for asking the question, and asking the question of where can I find salvation? In which church can I find salvation? And finding out through a holy experience with God the Father and His Son Jesus Christ that it didn't currently exist, and that it needed to be restored. And that spirit of the restoration just it just fills my soul, which I haven't taken a deep dive into church history for years, until just recently, as we're starting in the Doctrine and Covenants, and I'm just like, I missed this. I love the Book of Mormon. I love the Bible. And for me, it's an incomplete picture if you don't have it all together.
Yeah.
And so I'm haven't done a deep dive in church history for probably 3 or 4 years. And so all that to just say, I know that I believe so strongly and feel it confirmed constantly that not only is President Nelson a God's prophet, but that this is the true restored New Testament church in its fullness.
Thank you. What does that feel like? What does that confirmation feel like? How would you
Good
describe
question. Oh, just peace. I used to think it was I had read stuff on the internet, right?
Yeah.
That had convinced me that maybe it was just me longing for the feeling that I had growing up. And so, but I've gotten past that to realize that the feeling that I had growing up was the feeling of living in a home where the restoration was, we weren't sleeping through the restoration. My parents followed the prophet. They followed him meticulously. They followed the Savior. We had scripture study. My parents were not perfect, but they did an amazing job in making our home a safe haven where we could flourish in the gospel and in love. And that is what I've been seeking in my times when I floundered. And whenever I revisit the restoration of the gospel, that is when I feel that. And it's not just good feelings from my childhood. It is remembering the truth that they taught me growing up. It's First Nephi when he says, I Nephi being born of goodly parents, and remembering what his father had taught. And that's exactly the feeling. It's peace. It is comfort. It is this knowing, despite whatever's going on in the world, it is just this knowledge that that it's all going to be okay because we have a Savior and we have prophets. And the world is so confusing, and everybody's telling you contradictory things, and it's just full of corruption and evil. And I'm like, what do people do without a prophet? I don't know.
Dude, I have no idea.
I don't know. It's too confusing.
Yeah, President Nelson said this, I think this last conference, but he said something like, whatever is coming next, or like, whatever is coming, it's going to be wonderful because Jesus is coming.
Yeah.
And we often look to the book of Revelations with fear and like it could be terrible. But you know what? The best is yet to come because Jesus is coming. Like, that's so exciting to me. And he just exudes that.
Yes. Well, and I think that's so important as the prophet to lead us in that way, because a doom and gloom prophet would not be a prophet because he knows the plan of salvation. And it's not toxic positivity. It's just things as they are, which is that truth will always reign supreme over lies and over the devil, and light will always conquer. And so in the end, overall, in the end, the light wins. And so when you know the ending of the story, it's much easier to get through.
Yeah. They don't all die unless it's that one Star Wars movie, in which case they do.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. I was listening to what's one thing that's been really fun with my kids. They're starting to get to the age where I can do things with them. It's like I'm not just taking them to kind of do things, but like we can actually do something together. So we're listening to an audiobook. Did you ever read Fablehaven back in the day?
I didn't. I wasn't much of a reader. I liked almanacs, and I liked like really nerdy statistical things. I know.
Well, who is this
like
guy?
The church almanac, for some reason I really love that. Or like church or like temple architecture. That was my nerdy thing. But I wasn't like a reader of.
Who are you?
I know. I want to get into it. My daughter has already read 10 times more books than I've ever read. But
all right, I'll have this conversation with your daughter. But
yes.
there's this book called Fablehaven, and there's magical creatures, and I'm listening to it with my kids. So it's so fun because they love it. But there's this point where the main character, her name's Kendra, she's talking to her grandmother, and she asks her grandmother, why do the worst creatures come out at night? And her response just like struck me. She said, because evil likes to hide. Huh. And then there's like, then I had all these thoughts like kind of string together. Then Jesus, and when many angels appear, they often say, fear not. And it's because like fear and faith can't really exist in the same space, and that darkness and light can't really exist in the same space. And there's a point in our temple experience where we're invited not to participate if we have unkind feelings. It's like that same thing. If we're filled with envy or spite or malice or vengeance, it's like that we can't have we're shading ourselves from the joy and from the presence of the Spirit. So I love it. That's something I was thinking about recently that seemed to fit in there.
It's fascinating. That's cool. Maybe I'll have to read those. We actually have some on our shelf in our bedroom that have been untouched, I think. My wife has read Fablehaven, I know that, but
Well, it's not quite as exciting as the church architecture almanac, but it might get your heart rate up a little bit.
it's such a nerdy thing, but like whenever temple renderings come out, I'm just like,
You're all
it's like
over it?
Christmas morning. Yeah, because I love architecture and design, and so I like reading. So I've always been a reader, just not like a book reader.
Okay.
I'll read articles and I'll
Yeah.
read things like that, but not necessarily like full books. Um, I do now. I like business books, but anyway, maybe I need to get into Fablehaven with my kids because that sounds like an amazing series, and I've
Some
heard great things about it.
good symbolism there. Narnia also. We've talked about that in the past,
Ooh,
but that one,
love.
that's on my list with my kid. It might be a little scary some points, but
Yeah,
it's
I need to get
beautiful.
that. I need to watch or read that with my son. I've read it with my daughter, but I haven't. Do you ever feel like you forget to do things with your non-oldest children?
You did it
We've gotten
once,
to a
it's
point.
done.
Right?
Yeah.
I remember my mom saying that. She's like, "Did I not teach you that?" I'm like, "You probably did. I just probably wasn't listening." Because I'm the youngest of 10. But
As you're trying to brush your teeth and you just can't figure it out.
like, where does this
Where does
go?
this go?
Yeah. No, but sometimes I'm like feel that way with my youngest. I'm like, I read way more books with my oldest than I have with my
Yeah, she gave up.
littles,
She
with
was
the middle
tired.
kids. Yeah, yeah. It's not that I gave up either, but it's just I kind of forget because I thought that I already did that.
Yeah. She was a
But
sweet
I
lady.
need to.
Good mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yes. But I need to read. I need to read Chronicles of Narnia with my son because I haven't done that with my oldest. Or I did it with my oldest daughter. Haven't done it with my 8-year-old. Maybe I
Yeah.
need to start.
I'm gonna add that to my list. Um, last question for you.
Yes.
What is the monument you hope to build with your life?
Whew. Just last question, real fast.
Yeah. In 10 seconds or less.
No, gosh. I told you I wasn't good at elevator pitches. Tell me more. What do you mean by monument? Are
Yeah.
we talking legacy? Are we talking?
The way I like to think about it is it's like our lives, I feel like our lives are building an altar to God, and we place these
Mm,
stones as we go. And these are like the principles and philosophies and theologies and whatever it is that we use to build our lives. And those all point to a God, whether that's intentional or not. And so ideally it points to Jesus Christ. But when people look back on your life, it's like, what do you hope that they see?
that's a good question. Well, one thing that we do at our retreats, and this will, I promise, it will get to your answer or to your question. One of the things that we do is we help them come up with a mission, and it's not like the mission set in concrete for your whole life. It's just like, what's your mission now? And with that, we also do a shadow mission, which is the opposite of your mission. And a lot of times it ties back to maybe an experience growing up or like a theme in your life that you don't want to happen. So if somebody's been shut out, for example, one of the things that they probably focus on with their mission is inclusivity, making sure that everybody feels loved. Um, One of the things that I have felt is a big part of my mission overall in life is to unite, to be able to be friends with anybody, to help anybody to be loved and to be heard and to be seen. And that's actually part of why, I started Heare Brotherhood is because I wanted many men in around me and that I didn't know to be able to be heard, to be seen. And so that's one of the things that I would love to be an overarching theme, is that I pointed people to the true source of love and healing, and which is obviously Jesus Christ. And if I can be a vessel for that, then I think I'll arrive at the pearly gates or whatever that will look like, and I'll hear, "Well done, like my good and faithful servant." Those are the words I seek to hear at the end. And so I hope that I can be a vessel to help many people around the world to feel of his love, and to feel seen and heard by my actions, but also by him. More importantly than anything, though, is I'm working on focusing on doing that for my family and making sure that my wife and my 5 kids, and my extended family as well, that they all feel those same things. And I want to be a vessel for that.
Man, that's beautiful. As a distant outside observer, I would say that you're on the right track there.
So
Headed the right direction.
I sure hope so.
If people just can't get enough of you, John, how can they get more?
They can go to LinkedIn. That's where I am the most. Or
That roast me
Instagram.
page.
Yeah.
So look for
yes.
that.
Yes, if you want the true me, go to the roast me page. Yeah. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, John Moore, or you can find me on Instagram, or I don't post as much on Twitter and X, or Facebook, but I am on all the places. So wherever they are, I'm probably there, just way more active on LinkedIn and Instagram.
And the Heare Brotherhood, if somebody's listening, you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Heare Brotherhood.
Yes. Yes.
Who are you looking for? Who is it for?
Yeah. Any man that is wanting to, sometimes I hate the pitch of like trying to level up, but if they're trying to be more of who they truly are, rather than like trying to be someone else, but any man that's trying to return to or become more of who they truly are, but are feeling like they don't know how to do that because of their mental health or issues that they've had in the past, those are the type of people we're looking for. And that can mean you're broke, or that can mean you're rich. That can mean, we found that it doesn't, mental health challenges don't discriminate. So whatever that looks like, wherever you're feeling stuck, we are happy to help in that way, so that you can be more of who you truly are. So
I have a good friend, you know him, David Hartshorn. He actually introduced me. That was like the first I ever heard about it years ago, probably when you had just started. He's like, dude, you got to check this out. It's the coolest thing. But he just raved about how helpful it was to have a group of men that he could just have open, honest conversations with and support for struggles or to help support somebody else. So I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll wrap it up and get you out of here. Sean, thank you for being part of the Rebellion. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for joining this episode of The Holy Rebellion. We'll see you next week.